What is happening, fishing friends? Welcome to another episode of DEBO'S Fishing. And today we're going to talk about spinner baits. No, I'm just kidding. Today we're going to talk about frogs. Frogging, frog flipping, sticking, frogging, because it is my absolute number one, legs broke, favorite way to catch a fish, no matter what. There's explosions over here, and you're dangling this guy off the branch. You're walking this guy through open water, popping this guy over by some laydowns. Listen, you get the hint. There's a bunch of ways you can catch fish on a frog. They're extremely versatile. I don't just pick a frog out of the package with these big long legs, tucked in hooks, and start fishing it. There are different modifications that you can do to make you more successful at frog fishing. Now, additionally, there are different things you can do to mimic different things when you're frog fishing. So I'll show you what to look for in a frog, modifications you can use, and a couple different ways you can fish them to become a little bit more successful. What do you say? Now, with all the frogs on the market, where do you start? There's Lunker Hunt, Bro, Booyah, Savage Gear. They're all very similar. However, the biggest thing that I look for, and there's really only one so far that I've tried in this category that's lacking, and that's the hookup ratio. I don't mean in general because, of course, when you're frogging, you're going to miss fish. When they're coming up through that slop, they get stuff in their mouth, they get stuck in the weeds, whatever it is. However, the hookup ratio I mean is when they crush that body down, how freely can that hook move? How freely can that fish get pinned and have that body get out of the way? Most of these do pretty well at that. The only one that really lacks is the Lunker Hunt. Now, what I really like about the angle of these hooks is they're up. So when you set that hook, it's going straight into that fish's mouth. However, these legs don't move. So I think we can remedy that later. Okay, now that we have the hook out of the way, what else do I look for? Well, size. Different frogs have different size bodies, different weights, and also different size hooks. The hook on this Savage Gear is a little bit beefier. They're a little bit farther spread apart, and it's got a bigger body on it. Should be able to throw this a lot farther if it's really thick. If I'm using the heaviest of line, you can go with that one. Now, personally, I've always went with 50-pound braid to fish my frogs on. Just this year, I'm actually dropping down to a 40-pound braid to try it. Now, I'm not in the super thickest, craziest, heaviest stuff like down in Okeechobee, where it would probably make sense to throw a 65-pound braid. I'm up here in good old Iowa. There is some thick stuff, however, the 50-pound braid has been more than adequate. That's why I'm dropping down. Get a little bit more casting distance. Once that I'm certain I'm happy with the hook and the body of choice, I start looking at modifying. Yep, the old one leg removal. One of the first things I do is cut off the legs. Now, you can stop at one. Stopping at cutting one leg shorter, I usually go about the length of the body, just a little shorter. And what that's going to do is allow this frog to walk easier. So if you're somewhere where you want to pop side to side as you're walking it, cutting off one side will definitely help with that. There's more drag on one side as it goes. This side has less, so it's going to kick more out to that side. And it's going to make your walking action a lot easier. Now, we don't have to just stop there. This is what my frogs look like. Both of the legs are cut shorter. This one is just a tad longer still. Doesn't really matter. I cut them pretty short. I'm not a big fan of having the long legs on it because I want that bass to be able to target exactly what I want, which is the body and hooks. Oftentimes when I'm popping this over the thickest of muck, there are holes in the muck. Or right when I get to the outside of that muck, I'll pause. Plop, 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 plop. Get to the hole, pause. He's got a good positive target. If that's a big hole where he can see legs moving and a body, if he sees legs moving over here, he might be attracted to that because remember, this is a reaction strike. Bam! He's hitting it. I want him to be certain that the body is the target that he should be hitting. That's why I keep the legs trimmed. The second modification requires some of these. Some old needle nose pliers. Now, if I'm fishing the thickest, mossiest, muckiest stuff, I'll leave it like this. That way, in case when you cast it, it's upside down or on its side. As it rights itself up, you're not going to be getting caught in a bunch of gunk and moss and scum and yuckiness and have to clean it off. Because then you'll go crazy and you won't enjoy frog fishing. But if you're fishing vegetation that's a little bit more solid, a little more sparse, where you can cast into an open area and get this frog righted up and start working it, you don't really have to worry about those hooks catching. Or if you're working on the outside of a grass line, around some timber, I always bend these hooks up because after you take And don't get the barb. You can see the barb there. Right there, that barb, the little point on the bottom. Don't bend that guy up. Grab right behind there and don't try to bend this. Keep this held in one spot and take the body here and just slightly bend. Remember, these are hardened hooks, so you can break those. I usually get the hook bent up so it looks just like that. Now you can see the difference here. When you look at it straight on, see how that's sticking up above the body right here? The other one's clear down below the body. That means that you've got to get that fish to actually hit the body, squashed all the way down before that hook's going to go in. Now on this side, even if that fish doesn't have a good bite on it, it's just right in here, and I pull it, it's going right up into that fish's mouth. And that's what I want. I want him to catch like that. Now it's not sticking straight up, so it is still pretty weedless, but if it does land upside down, there's a good chance that you're going to catch some vegetation. Again, I fish this in the sparse vegetation, around wood, on the outside of grass lines. Trust me, having those hooks up above the body helps your hookup ratio. Next! And the next modification. But wait, before we get into that, let me know below. Comment and let me know, what do you do to be a more successful angler with a frog? Do you cut the tail? Do you bend the hooks? Let me know what you do. But wait. Oh yeah, wait. It just happens to be, if you didn't know it, frogs actually come with a weight addition hole. If you pinch the body and give it a twist. Hello, I'm the weight modification hole. It works like a charm. Get yourself some little steel ball bearings, or if you have your Red Ryder BB gun laying around, empty the contents, be very careful, and then you're just going to add the weight right here. Push it down in there gently, not to create too big of a hole. You don't want to tear it, and if you do tear it, it's not a huge issue. You can always add a little super glue or Gorilla Glue there. It's always worked for me. Now you want to be careful not to add too many. If you get the frog too heavy, it can kind of mess up the action. The rear end of the frog sitting a little bit too low in the water, but why add weight? When do I add weight? Well, if I'm fishing a spot where I really want to get a lot more casting distance, weight definitely helps with that. However, especially if you're a bank angler, that extra weight and that extra casting distance just might be the difference between not getting to the spot that you're trying to hit and actually reaching it. So, castability, casting distance. Now, the number 2 reason that I add weight to my frogs is for noise and disturbance. If you're fishing somewhere where the top layer is just a little bit thicker, and you need a little bit heavier frog to push down through it and make more of a commotion, push that slime and muck out of the way a little bit better so the bass can actually see it, the weight definitely helps. It'll help move that muck and slime out of the way to create a better disturbance and profile for your frog. What do we do if we have these? I like that, that hook angle. I cannot stand these legs. It stops the frog from spinning, and they just don't. Why did I say we would come back to this frog later? And oh yeah, he lost his legs. And of course, if you enjoy my channel, please consider subscribing for more informative videos just like this one. And until next time, whoops, missed it. It was supposed to be an action shot like this.